Vairagyavidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartamekam Drusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripam Budir Kalam Nashtam Nijam Bhakti Yogam Ja Pradush Kartam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirbhutas Tasya Padara Vinde Gadam Gadam Liyatam Chitta Bringa. We're continuing with the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 8. We're in the midst of the talks between the Lord and Ramananda Roy. And we're taking up at text number 128, if that's all right with everybody. Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kene Noi Jai Krishna Tattva Veta She Guru Hoy. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Purport. This verse is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that one should not think that because Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born a Brahmana and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive instructions from Srila Ramananda Roy, who belonged to the Shudra caste. To clarify this matter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Ramananda Roy that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashrama Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmanas, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Actually, the Brahmana is supposed to be the spiritual master of all other Varnas or classes. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming a spiritual master, because knowledge in Krishna consciousness is on the platform of the spirit soul. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Grahastha, or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. It is stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that one should not accept initiation from a person who is not in the Brahminical order, if there is a fit person in the Brahminical order present. This instruction is meant for those who are overly dependent on the mundane social order and is suitable for those who want to remain in mundane life. I repeat that because it's such a masterful, it's all masterful, but it's just so utterly appropriate in context of so many misunderstandings. It is stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that one should not accept initiation from a person who is not in the Brahminical order of life, if there is a fit person in the Brahminical order present. This instruction is meant for those who are overly dependent on the mundane social order and is suitable for those who want to remain in mundane life. If one understands the truth of Krishna consciousness and seriously desires to attain transcendental knowledge for the perfection of life, he can accept a spiritual master from any social status, provided the spiritual master is fully conversant with the science of Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also states that although one is situated as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Grahastha, or sannyasi, if he is conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a spiritual master as a Vartmana Pradarshaka Guru, Diksha Guru, or Shiksha Guru. The spiritual master who first gives information about spiritual life is called the Vartma Pradarshaka Guru. The spiritual master who initiates according to the regulations of the Shastras is called the Diksha Guru, and the spiritual master who gives instructions for elevation is called the Shiksha Guru. Factually, the qualifications of a spiritual master depend on his knowledge of the science of Krishna. It does not matter whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sannyasi, or Shudra. This injunction given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not at all against the injunctions of the Shastras. In the Padma Purana it is said, Na Shudra Bhagavat Bhaktas Tepi Bhagavatotama Sarva Varneshu Te Shudra Yeta Bhakta Janardane. One who is actually advanced in spiritual knowledge of Krishna is never a Shudra, even though he may have been born in a Shudra family. However, even if a Vipra or Brahmin is very expert in the 6 brahminical activities, Patan, Pathan, Yajna, Yagan, Dhanam, Pratigraha, and is also well versed in the Vedic hymns, he cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a Vaishnav. But if one is born in the family of Chandalas, yet is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are the Shastra conjunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a grahastha named Sri Vishwambar, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishvara Puri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. According to others, however, he was initiated by Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. Advaita Acharya, although a grahastha, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and Sri Rasikananda, although born in a Brahmin family, was initiated by Sri Shamananda Prabhu, who was not born in a caste Brahmin family. There are many instances in which a born Brahmin took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmin family. The Brahminical symptoms are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.35, wherein it is stated, Yasya lakshanam proktam pumsam varnabhya banchakam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tattenaiva vanirdishet. If a person is born in a Shudra family but has all the qualifications of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as a Brahmana but as a qualified spiritual master. Also, this is also the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to the rules and regulations. Sometimes a Vaishnava who is a Bhajananandi does not take to the Savitra Samskar, sacred threads initiation. But this does not mean that this system should be used for preaching work. There are 2 kinds of Vaishnavas, Bhajananandi and Goshtyanandi. A Bhajananandi is not interested in preaching work, but a Goshtyanandi is interested in spreading Krishna consciousness to benefit the people and increase the number of Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is understood to be above the position of a Brahmana. As a preacher, he should be recognized as a Brahmana. Otherwise, there may be a misunderstanding of his position as a Vaishnava. However, a Vaishnava Brahmana is not selected on the basis of his birth, but according to his qualities. Unfortunately, those who are unintelligent do not know the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. They are under the impression that unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot be a spiritual master. For this reason only, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes this statement in this verse. Kiva vipra kiva nyasi shudra kene nai jai Krishna tatto beta she guru hai. If one becomes a guru, he is automatically a Brahmana. Sometimes a caste guru says that jai Krishna tattva beta she guru hai means that one who is not a Brahmana may become a Shiksha guru or a Vartmana Pradakshika guru, but not an initiator guru. According to such caste gurus, birth and family ties are considered foremost. However, the hereditary consideration is not acceptable to Vaishnavas. The word guru is equally applicable to the Vartmana Pradakshika, Shiksha guru, and Diksha guru. Unless we accept the principle enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Krishna consciousness movement cannot spread all over the world. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intentions, Pritivite Ache Jata Nagarari Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoibe Mornam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult must be preached all over the world. This does not mean that people should take to his teachings and remain Shudras and Chandalas. As soon as one is trained as a pure Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. This is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions in this verse. Case closed. That nails it. I mean, if you read that purport, you don't get it. Good luck. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna. Sri Ramananda Roy was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God, and although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, and although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. Purport. The perfect devotee always acts according to the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a materialistic man is carried away by the waves of the material energy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Mayar bashe jacho beshe kacho habudu bubai. A person under the grip of the material energy is carried away by the waves of that illusory energy. In other words, a person in the material world is a servant of Maya. However, a person in the spiritual energy is a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Ramananda Roy knew that nothing was unknown to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he nonetheless began to speak further on the subject because the Lord desired it. Sri Ramananda Roy said, I am just a dancing puppet and you pull the strings. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance. My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument, and you are its player. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. Ramananda Roy then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said. He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnations and the cause of all causes. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets as well as innumerable incarnations in the material world. Also, there are innumerable universes, and Krishna is the supreme resting place for all of them. The transcendental body of Sri Krishna is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is full of all opulences and potencies, as well as all spiritual mellows. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. This verse is from the Brahma Samhita. In the spiritual realm of Vrindavan, Krishna is the spiritual ever-fresh Cupid. He is worshipped by the chanting of the Kama Gayatri mantra with the spiritual seed clinging. Purport. Vrindavan is described in the Brahma Samhita 556 in this way. The spiritual realm of Vrindavan is always pure, is always spiritual. The goddess of fortune and the gopis are always present there. They are Krishna's beloveds, and all of them are as spiritual as Krishna. In Vrindavan, Sri Krishna is the supreme person and is the husband of all the gopis and the goddesses of fortune, and the goddess of fortune. The trees in Vrindavan are wish-fulfilling trees. The land is made of touchstone, and the water is nectar. Words are musical vibrations, and all movements are dancing. The flute is the Lord's constant companion. The planet Goloka Vrindavan is self-luminous, like the sun, and is full of spiritual bliss. The perfection of life lies in tasting that spiritual existence. Therefore, everyone should cultivate its knowledge. In Vrindavan, spiritual cows are always supplying spiritual milk. Not a single moment is wasted there. In other words, there is no past, present, or future. Not a single particle of time is wasted. Within this material universe, the devotees worship that transcendental abode as Goloka Vrindavan. Lord Brahma himself said, "Let me worship that spiritual land where Krishna is present." This transcendental Vrindavan is not appreciated by those who are not devotees or self-realized souls, because this Vrindavan Dham is all spiritual. The pastimes of the Lord there are also spiritual. None are material. According to a prayer by Srila Narottam Das Thakur in Prarthana, Ar kabe nitai chander karuna karibe sangsara vasana mor kabe tucha habe. When will Lord Nityananda have mercy upon me so that I can realize the uselessness of material pleasure? Vishaya chadiya kabe, shuddha habe man, kabe hama hereva Shri Vrindavan. When will my mind be cleansed of all material dirt so that I will be able to feel the presence of spiritual Vrindavan? Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti, Kabe Hama, Bhujaba She, Jugala Piriti. When will I be attracted to the instructions of the Goswamis so that I will be able to understand what is Radha and Krishna and what is Vrindavan? These verses indicate that one first has to be purified of all material desires and all attraction for fruit of activity and speculative knowledge if one wishes to understand Vrindavan. In reference to the words aprakrita, navina, madana, aprakrita refers to that which is the very opposite of the material conception. The Mayavadis consider this to be zero or impersonal, but that is not the case. Everything in the material world is dull, but in the spiritual world everything is alive. The desire for enjoyment is present both in Krishna and in his parts and parcels, the living entities. In the spiritual world, such desires are also spiritual. No one should mistakenly consider such desires to be material. In the material world, if one is sexually inclined and enjoys sex life, he enjoys something temporary. His enjoyment vanishes after a few minutes. However, in the spiritual world, the same enjoyment may be there, but it never vanishes. It is continuously enjoyed. In the spiritual world, such sex pleasure appears to the enjoyer to be more and more relishable with each new feature. In the material world, however, sex enjoyment becomes distasteful after a few minutes only, and it is never permanent. Because Krishna appears very much sexually inclined, he is called the new Cupid in the spiritual world. There is no material inebriety in such desire, however. Gayantam trayate yasmad gayatri tvam tata smrita. One who chants the Gayatri mantra is gradually delivered from the material clutches. In other words, that which delivers one from material entanglement is called Gayatri. An explanation of the Gayatri mantra can be found in the Madhya Lila, chapter 21, text 125. Kama Gayatri mantra roop, hoy Krishnera swarup, sarda chabhish akshara tar hoy, she akshara chandra hoy Krishna kari udoy, tri jagat koila kamamai. The Kama Gayatri mantra is just like a Vedic hymn, but it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. There is no difference between the Kama Gayatri and Krishna. Both are composed of 24 and a half transcendental syllables. See Madhya 21.125 and 29. We're going to revisit it. The mantra depicted in letters is also Krishna. And the mantra rises just like the moon. Due to this, there is a perverted reflection of the desire in human society and among all kinds of living entities. In the mantra, Klim Kamadevaya Vidmehe Pushpavanaya, etc. Krishna is called Kamadev, Pushpavan, and Ananga. Kamadev is Madan Mohan, the deity who establishes our relationship with Krishna. Pushpana, he who carries an arrow made of flowers, is Govinda, the personality of Godhead who accepts our devotional service. And Ananga is Gopijana Ballabha, who satisfies all the gopis and is the ultimate goal of life. This Kama Gayatri simply does not belong to this material world. When one is advanced in spiritual understanding, he can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his spiritually purified senses and fulfill the desires of the Lord. Manmana Bhavamad Bhakta. That just kind of is nice. I'll read that again. When one is advanced in spiritual understanding, he can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his spiritually purified senses and fulfill the desires of the Lord. Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mami Vaishyasi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyosi Me. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Bhagavad Gita 1865. In the Brahma Samhita 5.27 through 28, it is stated, Atavenu nidadasya trayimuti mayingati spuranti praviveshashu mukabjani swayambhuvaha gayatrim gayatas tasmad arigatya sarojaja samskritascha guruna dvijatam agamatata traya prabhutata vidhir vijñata tattvasagara Tushtava vidasarena stotrenanena keshavam. Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, having been manifested by the divine sound of Sri Krishna's flute, entered the lotus mouth of Brahma, the self-born, through his 8 ear holes. Thus the lotus-born Brahma received the Gayatri mantra, which had sprung from the song of Sri Krishna's flute. In this way he attained twice-born status, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, God in himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, which embodies the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all the Vedas, with this hymn. The vibration of Krishna's flute is the origin of the Vedic hymns. Lord Brahma, who is seated on a lotus flower, heard the sound vibration of Krishna's flute and was thereby initiated by the Gayatri mantra. Ay, 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 ay. So that brings us to any last questions, points? Yes.
The question came up about guidance earlier on, and I remember Gopi Parandan Prabhu told me once that Shastra, there is no such thing as a literal interpretation of any of our scriptures. He said everything is according to the rendering of the Acharya. So here we see that literally if you read Sanatana Goswami's writing, it makes it appear that if there is someone from the Brahminical order, it's better to take initiation from such a person than someone else. But then we see Prabhupada clarifying that although Sanatana Goswami has written this is what he means. So generally in our tradition, we are not permitted to touch Shastra directly to understand something. We have to understand it through the Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, like that. So there is a, if you try to take direct guidance from Shastra, then we may not end up doing the right thing. Just a reflection.
Thank you, and thank you for invoking the name of Gopi Parandadana Prabhu, who used to live 1 block over. And in the old days when we were here, he would be here regularly. Not in the here in chanting sessions, but he was a member of the community. Prabhu?
Thank you. It was quite amusing in a way to hear this, how it's really for people who are in a certain mindset that is relevant to them. But the same scenario exists today. It's not like, and it just takes on a different nuance. It's not anymore, it has to be somebody from the Brahminical order, but it's going to be somebody who is a 5-star general, who is a sannyasi, who has, disciples in all 14 planetary systems. Instead of you just take diksha from your preeminent shiksha guru, from the person who is the most prominent in your life, but rather that idea of it has to be somebody who has stature, so to speak. Like these caste Goswamis, caste Brahmins, they had stature, so they were well respected. So similarly in institutions, there's a certain caste that is well respected for various reasons. yet that is relevant for people who are of that type of mindset that Sanatana Goswami is describing here. So can we correlate this? Can we contextualize this to today's scenario? Because I see a lot of people who have that attitude.
You could try to do that. I don't think it works so well, though. At least my observation is that devotees who want guidance are very sincere about it. And there's an old saying, I learned it from my wife, because it comes from New York: every pot has its lid. And it has to do with relationships. You know, there's lids everywhere, and there's pots, and then fit somewhere. You see, amidst the various options, people have their reasons that they gravitate towards a particular guru. At least what I find. The group think, it's always there to some degree, and it can be. But I find it in most individuals, if I assume that, I'm often or mostly mistaken. Because I find that somehow there was a transmission into the heart of that person, an enlivening experience where they thought, this is my guru. And they really do feel like that. And oftentimes you see amidst a community that's mostly devotees initiated by a particular guru, there's a lot of exceptions too. So, and the other thing, I mean, just talking about ISKCON, those who we can think of who are preaching, giving initiation, are often venerable and amazing personalities. Some people are attracted to a bigger family. Others they like to find a small niche where there's a guru that only has a few disciples or is smaller and things like that. I understand that it can cross over at any time, and we should be aware of that, be careful, because always we see in some communities too that it's possible that it's not well thought out, it just becomes more of a social thing. But I've been surprised over the years in noticing that when I assume that, I'm often wrong. I'm usually wrong anyway, so that's not a big deal. But when I start talking to people, they actually have love for their guru, and they're attached. And every pot has its lid. So that's what I think of it. I think of the other one, it's really caste consciousness. They want to maintain their grip on the Brahminical culture, so they want to have a guru that's a Brahmin, because what are the neighbors going to think, or something like that. I mean, you do have a point, obviously, but I'm just trying to push it a couple inches to the other side. Okay, any last things from the Outside People's Party? We do the kirtan after I say, right? Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatapa, Shri Shri Gauritai, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Radhesham. If you so desire, please bless everyone who joined the yajna today, for hearing that everything that we heard will stay in our minds and hearts, and we never forget these points that Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai have made today. And may we be the vessels that take the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings to the world and inculcate them into the hearts and minds of people of the world who are starving for something nice and they're not getting anything. Thanks for considering our requests. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo. Vanchakoptarishta kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanande. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,